right, we got to get right now to Pennsylvania Congressman-elect Scott Perry. He's the incoming Freedom Caucus chair and one of the lawmakers leading the charge against McCarthy. He joins us now. Congressman-elect, thank you for hanging with us. Appreciate it. So here's what we understand from reporting what was talked about overnight here with McCarthy. Reported concessions to the House Freedom Caucus, one-member threshold on the motion to vacate the chair, 2 seats for the Freedom Caucus and the House Rules Committee and other committees, a vote, at least, on term limits and standalone votes on 12 individual appropriations bills. Is there a deal done at this point, Congressman-elect?
Well, thanks for asking. First of all, there is no agreement whatsoever, and it's disappointing that confidences are betrayed about the details of internal meetings, and it exemplifies Washington, D.C. and the trust factor that is causing the impasse that is occurring right before your eyes. There's a trust issue with the gentleman who wants to be Speaker. You can just reference his former boss, member of Congress, and what he says about Kevin McCarthy. It is hard to restore trust in just a month or two, and it's really hard when you betray confidences in a meeting where the details are then leaked out to the press. So there is no agreement at this time. But I will tell you this, we are looking for transformational change in the swamp and the uniparty in Washington, D.C. that doesn't work for the American people, that works for Washington, D.C. And we're not going to leave until we have that. We are here to fight for the American people. Everybody knows this town is broken. Everybody knows it, but no one wants to do anything about it. This is our opportunity, and we're going to take it.
The max vote that anybody else who's been nominated by your party has gotten 20. How do you expect to get to 218 with anybody else, and who is that?
Well, as I've said, I've never made this personal. I started negotiating in the summertime. So it's not about Kevin McCarthy or anybody else. It's about anybody that's willing to embrace these fundamental changes and give us the tools and the personnel. It's whoever can get 218. If Kevin McCarthy will embrace these changes, I suspect he can get to 218. But if he will not, then he can't, and somebody else will have to.
Let me come back, if I could, Congressman-elect, to this idea of negotiations, compromises being made to the House Freedom Caucus. You say that there's no deal at this point, but is there one in the works that could get him to either 218 or with some abstentions or voting present or whatever, get him to a number in which he becomes Speaker?
So once again, it would be unfaithful of me to characterize any negotiations that may or may not be occurring, after going out and complaining about other folks that are doing it. So I'm just going to say there is no agreement at this time. You can see the votes are occurring, and we're asking for transformational change, not for ourselves, but for the people we came here to represent. And some of the things, go ahead.
But if I could, just as I asked Kellyanne Conway, the posture of Kevin McCarthy going into the House today, in lieu of the negotiations that took place last night and again this morning, he said, I wouldn't read anything into the votes today. That was suggestive to me and to Kellyanne that there is something in the works here, and that what we're looking at right now is just pro forma, but in the days ahead, there could be a vote that gets him to the magic number.
Well, wouldn't you expect him to say that? I mean, this is politics. Of course he's going to put things in the best light, and he's going to spin it. You expect that. You have to be able to read through that and see what's actually occurring. Right now, he doesn't have 218. He didn't have it yesterday. And, chances are, if nothing changes, he won't have it tomorrow.
Amid this process, you recently said Washington is broken, and we're clearly watching what appears to be a split party with no consensus on who your party is going to elect to be Speaker of the House. Do you worry the damage this is doing after flipping the House and obviously noting that this is putting the Republican agenda on delay?
Taking a few days to change essentially what has gone wrong over the 100 years.
So there's a deal in the works, and it's going to be done in a few days?
Well, I don't know, but what's taking place right now is taking a few days. So what I'm saying is, since this hasn't happened for 100 years, where we had a contested speaker's vote, if it takes a few days in that 100 years to get it right and to get Washington back on track, Washington has lost its way. You can tell just 13 days ago, yet again, $1.7 trillion bill sent in the middle of the night, Christmas Eve, 7,000 earmarks in it, Christmas tree up. America is tired of this. Their voices are not being heard. So if you got to spend a couple days to get it right, it is worth it.
So, Congressman, let me ask you, in terms of just where we're going here in the days ahead. The Democrats are obviously loving this process. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez seemed to give some credence to Kat Kammick's observation about alcohol, saying that if Democrats were doing shots every time that there was an unsuccessful vote, they'd be passed out by now. But Brad Sherman posited that if McCarthy becomes Speaker, he may have to make deals with Democrats because he won't be able to make them with the House Freedom Caucus. And I'm wondering
that's absolutely not true. We're always interested in working with Republicans, and we don't want our Speaker to be working with Democrats. As long as the Speaker is true to what we believe in, as Republicans across the board, we're going to be in fine shape. We just have to get this worked out and get the tools in place, and again, sometimes with the personnel, to have transformative change so we don't keep ending up with the same thing. What we keep doing is the same thing with the same people under the same conditions and expecting a different outcome. I don't know why we would keep doing that.
But if I could just finish the question that I had for you, Congressman-elect, if McCarthy as Speaker, and I know this is a hypothetical, were to cut a deal with Democrats instead of cutting one with the House Freedom Caucus, how would you react, particularly if there is a one-member threshold for a motion to vacate the chair?
Well, I think, quite honestly, forget how I would react. I bet the other Republicans in the room would not appreciate that very much either. No one appreciates being betrayed, not just the members of the Freedom Caucus. Any Republican would take that as an act of combat.
Congressman, can you just give us some idea? You just mentioned you've been working on this since last summer. Just give us some indication of the tone of the meetings with Kevin McCarthy, these ongoing negotiations and discussions, and what that's like.
Well, in the summertime, he was disinterested, quite honestly. Even in the fall, he was disinterested because he expected a 240-seat majority, this big red wave, and people and the views of people that he can dismiss are irrelevant. It was only because we had a slim majority that he needed to come to the table. So none of these changes that are necessary, that everybody in the conference agrees with, by the way, they don't like the process, I get it. I don't love it either. But none of these changes would be on the table if the slim majority didn't exist. And so we have to take this opportunity to make the changes necessary to make Congress work for the American people.
All right, Congressman-elect Scott Perry, the Keystone State, thank you. We'll let you go vote. I assume you'll be voting for Byron Donalds.
I will be. Thank you.
And by the way, run back out to the camera if you feel the need to do so. We'll be here for a couple hours.
All right. God bless you.
All right. Thanks
for joining us.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.